What is up, podcast world? Welcome to the Retro Gamers. Don't worry, I'm back. Larry here.
And Anthony here.
What's going on, Ant? You did good holding down the fort last week. I love it.
Yep. And let me be the first one to tell you that I'm so happy you're back.
I'm happy to be back with all the delays and everything because of Delta. Stupid Delta.
Oh, poor Delta.
Oh, my gosh. Yeah, I'm back from the Big Easy. Back from WrestleMania. So
and you survived.
I did. Oh, my gosh. It was such a wonderful trip, I got to admit. Just real quick, it was so much fun down in New Orleans. A lot better the second time than the first time. And not even talking about the WrestleMania part, just the city part.
Okay.
Good stuff, good weather. Wrestling-wise, we did a lot more stuff for wrestling with Access. It was an added show with TakeOver and SmackDown. But top to bottom, me and my father had a blast. I thought the card top to bottom was really good. And it kind of, as always, goes a little bit quicker than usual.
Well, I mean, when you're running around like crazy for like almost a week of nonstop wrestling, it does tend to go fast.
Just about. And
unless you work for them, it kind of goes slower when you work for them. Just saying.
I don't know why you would know that.
I don't know why I would know that either. I know a guy.
I know a guy who knew a guy.
Know a guy who knew a guy who knew a guy who worked there.
But yeah, no, it was really cool, and of course, the trip didn't start without any issues. As we got on the plane, as a 2.5 hour delay before we took off, had to get off the plane, get back on the plane, all because of frozen water lines because New York has been unseasonably cold.
Mm-hmm.
So that was interesting.
Well, let me tell you this much. When I'm in an airport, if they're telling me that they have to do something to the plane to make it safer, I have no problem waiting.
It was just water in the bathroom. I'm like, fine, we'll just put a big tub of Purell in there. We're good to go.
Well, I mean, I have a feeling that wouldn't have worked. Just so you know, just saying.
Dolph Ziggler was on my flight. That was fun on the way down.
Did you talk to him?
No. He looked like he didn't want to talk to anyone. He had his hoodie on, his glasses on, his hat on. He tucked down. He knew he was on a plane full of marks.
You being the leader.
No, I was good. What else happened down there? Beyond that, like I said, it was all good stuff. I brought my Switch with me, which shockingly I really didn't play much of. I was more busier than I thought I was going to be.
All right. Well, while you were down there, did you buy any video games?
I did not. No, I did not see any retro gaming stores, but I did see, which I didn't get a chance to go into, just, again, with the craziness that was going on. There was not Barcade, but there was a place called Barcadia, which was a bar/arcade. Again, just didn't get a chance to go, but I saw it, so that was pretty cool. I mean, I'm all about Barcade, but it was pretty cool to see Barcadia. And the other thing that I saw that was cool, which I posted on the Instagram page, at WrestleMania at the Mercedes-Benz Superdome, we kind of ducked in, me and my dad, to go to a shop, to buy some stuff at WrestleMania. And It was kind of past a little bit of a bar area, but they had set up like 4 or 5 stations demoing Street Fighter 30th Anniversary that comes out in a few months.
Ooh.
Yeah, so that was pretty cool to see. Again, I didn't get a chance to play it, but I saw other people playing it. The game looks like it runs smooth. It looks cool because it has like the old graphics to it. And it was just kind of cool to see them kind of promoting that already, especially with demos.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, absolutely. And other than that, I spoke to a couple people, waiting online to go into shows or autographs. Kind of mentioned because on my jersey, the WrestleMania jersey, I get customized and I put my handle More365. So people ask, what is that? That's when I start with talking about the podcast and everything. And so hopefully we got a couple new followers from that. So if you're listening,
that would be good. Let me check the podcast. Let's check the podcast page right now as we speak.
how you can tell though.
We've lost 15. What did you do?
I probably went to Evolve or Progress. I didn't go to WrestleMania.
Oh, all right. Well then, yeah, stop doing that.
But bottom line though, cool trip. Glad to be back. I want to thank Jay for being on the episode last week with Anthony, helping co-host.
Thank you, Jay, for the breath, the fresh air that was you.
Yeah, absolutely. It was a blast. I had a great time listening to Jay and hearing his perspective on games and your topics with the arcades. Cool stuff.
Yeah, it's funny because we don't talk a lot of arcade on our show. It's just because we're both so console heavy.
Yeah.
And we're also Nintendo heavy on top of that. It was interesting to talk about a subject we don't talk about that often, and on top of it, to your point, getting somebody else's perspective on it. And Jay seemed right at home on the podcast, so if I were you, I'd be careful. If you start missing too many shows, I may have a new co-host.
Listen, he sounded like a pro, so it was very cool. And then a fun little side note. So I'm gonna pull the curtain back a little bit, reveal the wizard. So Anthony, with that week with me in New Orleans, Anthony recorded, he edited, perfect, great editing, and then he sent it to me because I have to log in and post it because I log in with my Facebook account, and I go, Anthony sends it to me. I think he sent it to me Monday. So it was after Raw when I was still in New Orleans. I'm back at the hotel. So I go on one of the computers to get this thing posted through our website, through Spreaker, through Spreaker's website. So I downloaded. I was able to download the episode. Cool. I go to upload it through Spreaker. When I go to access the hard drive, the local hard drive, all of a sudden their internet not virus, but their internet protection kicks in and then is like, you are not authorized to use the hard drive, and then kind of like reset it on me. So now I could not access what I just downloaded on this computer. So there is a computer at the Hilton Riverside in New Orleans with a episode of the Retro Gamers somewhere on its hard drive that I could not get back to.
Well, thank God it's an episode that you're not on then.
So I had to I learned how to actually be able to upload it through the phone, through the iPhone app, which is why it actually also posted earlier than usual because I couldn't schedule it. But I'm sitting there, and when the thing reset on me, I'm like, uh-oh, I have an episode on this computer somewhere, and I can't get back to it.
Nice.
So if someone finds it, congratulations in New Orleans. That's what I get for using the one Mac in the bank of PCs.
Well, hey, Macs are supposed to be the most reliable ones. Oh, wait, that's right. Yeah, not.
So I thought that was pretty interesting. But beyond that, happy to be home. And did I miss much? Did I miss anything? Did you do any shopping? Did you go to Japan? I don't know what was happening while I was in New Orleans.
Oh, yeah. You never know what's going to happen with me. But no, you really didn't miss anything. Work has been a little demanding to me lately, so I haven't had time to buy any video games.
Fair enough.
And which bodes well for me because of our contest that's going on, our current shopping contest. Those of you who don't know, Larry and I, thanks to Josh from Victims and Villains, have a bet going on. Whoever spends the most money on retro game shopping this year has to buy the other person a Virtual Boy. It is safe to say, and I've already announced that should I win this contest, I will be destroying the Virtual Boy on video.
Apparently, you may be going to Tennessee.
I may be going to Tennessee to the Tim Jackson compound to do it. Hi, Tim. Thanks for offering your place up.
I'm pretty sure he's got room out there. He's a veteran, so I'm sure he's got some things that can be used, maying. Of course, it's all speculation.
I'm sure I can destroy that thing up real good. But anyway, so Larry, as we know, since he discovered this store Game On in Long Island, where he lives, has been spending a lot of money. Now, me, on the other hand, I have not been spending that much money, and it's actually kind of fortuitous for me because I get to win the contest. But lately, I have shifted off of buying retro games because I've been getting back into comic book collecting. So I've been spending my fair share of money on comic books. So if this were a bet about comic books, I would definitely be losing. But since it's about retro games, I am clearly in the lead, and I will happily take that victory at the end of this year. However, there are some upcoming trips to Japan.
Really?
They're looming on the horizon. I got one in a week.
Do you really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. No. I have one coming up in about a week, and then I've got another one in May and another one in June. So there'll definitely be some trips to Super Potato.
Huh. I'll have to get my list going again.
Well,
gosh, darn it.
And there's one item that you should definitely put on your list right off the bat. And I posted this article on our page while you were, slumming it up over in New Orleans. But there apparently is this retro console called the Retro Freak.
Yes.
And you can only get this system in Japan. Apparently it's been out for a while. This isn't exactly a brand new article that I found, but it's the first time I'm hearing of this system.
Mm-hmm.
But it can play up to 11 different systems, so it's a small system, but it can play Famicom, Game Boy, Game Boy Color, Game Boy Advance, PC Engine, Sega Genesis, Sega Mega Drive, Super Graphics, Super Famicom, Super Nintendo, and TurboGrafx 16.
That's cool. I like the TurboGrafx aspect.
Yeah, exactly. Now, conspicuous by its absence is the original Nintendo, and the reason why that wasn't included is because this was made in Japan, and then NES and Famicom cartridges are two different sizes.
Yeah.
They obviously went with Famicom since it's a Japanese console. It retails for roughly $150, or at least it did when it first came out. It may be less expensive now.
Mm-hmm.
But the coolest thing about it that I like is that there's a micro SD card port in the console. So when you insert a cartridge, it prompts you. It prompts you with an option to copy the game onto the micro SD card, and then you can just leave the game on the micro SD card and go back and play it without having to put the cartridge back in again.
Which that aspect is definitely appealing because, as we talked about before, and you've even mentioned yourself, Ant, when you live stream, when you broadcast, you are playing an emulator, but you do make it, and I know this for a fact, you do make it apparent that you only play the games that you already own the original cartridge or CD for, because legally you can keep an emulator if you have the original cartridge. And by this, it's almost like now having your movie collection, your Blu-rays in the cloud. It's just easier to access them, to switch up on a whim, and it's a bit more portable than carrying around a bunch of cartridges. So that's what I like about this. Yeah,
exactly. It's kind of like having your NES Classic or your SNES Classic with you. The only difference, I know you hate when I say that. I can tell by your reaction, but I still love saying SNES Classic. It's the same thing as having one of those, except that, it opens it up to 11 different systems. And to be honest with you, a couple of those systems are generally more expensive, like the Super Graphics and the TurboGrafx 16 and the PC Engine. So being able to play those, to just buy the games for that and then download them onto the micro SD card so you can play is definitely appealing.
Absolutely. I mean, honestly, it's almost like if alone, compared to some of the other clone systems I have, just the fact that it plays TurboGrafx, because I've been looking for a Turbo. I've never owned TurboGrafx, so
neither have I, and I've always wanted it.
Yeah, that's appealing. I like that.
Well, see, and then it also brings up another question too, because of the fact that it holds a micro SD card, and the article does mention this too. You also have the option to load ROMs onto the micro SD card and play it on the Retro Freak. So you don't necessarily have to put a cartridge in and rip it. You can just throw ROMs on it. And again, to your point, we don't, again, as the retro gamers, we don't condone playing illegal ROMs. But I'm curious to see, if I wanted to, let's say, load an NES ROM onto the micro SD card of games I own, would it work?
I would imagine it should, because if it's ripping the cartridge to an SD card or mini SD card, whatever, that same file type should be the same file type as these emulators, like the RetroPie or anything like that.
Well, so well, yes and no, because you have to remember the extension of the game is always going to be different depending on the file. So, like, if you have a ROM for NES, it's a .NES file, whereas for a Famicom, it's different.
Oh, so, I see what you're talking about.
It's possible that it may not recognize even a ROM for an NES game, but still, the fact that you can own this system that lets you play, 11 different systems, and then on top of that, copy games over to an SD card, it's very beneficial. It's similar to the Retron 5 that we have here in the States. Although I don't know if the Retron 5 allows the game to remain on its system through an SD card.
No, it will. It does rip the ROM from the cartridge, but you still need the cartridge to play it, even though you're technically playing off the ROM.
Right.
If that makes
sense. So anyway, Retro Freak sounds like a really interesting thing, and I will pick you up one since I know you want it.
We will talk.
I'm sure we will.
And with that, you posted it on the Facebook page. So I saw that with the Retro Freak here, and I saw that you also posted something else that I think is really big time. I'm really hoping they do it for like the Apple TV version, but apparently Chrono Trigger, enough people have complained, and Chrono Trigger has been updated. So Square Enix is listening.
Yeah, so basically, for those of you who don't know, Chrono Trigger was released on Steam, but what they did was they upgraded the graphics. Unfortunately, when they had done that, they had basically made a lot of hardcore gamers angry because the game didn't look like the way that it used to when you would originally play it on the Super Nintendo. And Square Enix was getting a lot of backlash for this. So it was just announced, or not even just announced this week, but Square Enix just very, very quietly released the original like 16-bit look and graphics of Chrono Trigger. So anybody who bought it, I don't know if it was an automatic update or not, or if like when you started the game it prompted you to do it, but now if you want to buy, or if you already own Chrono Trigger for Steam, you can now play it in its original format.
I mean, it's probably kind of like the same way you can dial up or dial back the graphics on the minis, or some of these other games that have been released, like Ultra Street Fighter on the Switch. You can do between new graphics or the old 16-bit on a fly. So I got to imagine that's the case, because there probably will be people who want to play with the new graphics. I just think that's awesome that enough people have spoken, and the company heard these people, and it's a legit gripe. I even said when we first talked about the game coming out originally, I was like, I even asked, is there a way to dial back the graphics? At the time, you said no, because that was true. It's just awesome to see that this company, or a giant company, still listens to their fans, and it didn't take them long to be able to update it, and now we get the original version that everyone loves.
Yeah. Well, and I think the benefit to like video game companies actually listening to their fans is, let's face it, I mean, those are their consumers. Those are the people that are going to be buying things from them, and you really don't want to piss these people off, especially when you're talking about retro games, because retro games have been slowly on the rise these days. And especially iconic ones that already have an established fan base, and you want that fan base to grow. You're gonna want to listen to the consumers in order to make sure you maintain or achieve continued success. So kudos to Square Enix for actually listening to their fans and giving them what they want.
No, absolutely. And it was funny, I was listening to a podcast today. And they were talking about they just mentioned it real quick, how society's in this retro phase, not just on video games, but everything kind of has this retro phase and retro feel to it. And you're right, to see something retro, something old, get that clean look to it, which 20 years ago everyone would have enjoyed and would have wanted to see. Like, for example, Super Mario All-Stars. But
that's
now,
more like 25 years old.
Yeah, honestly.
Yeah.
So, but now it's going the other way, and it's almost, I mean, we're going to be going back to Nokia cell phones probably very soon.
Well, let's not get hasty.
Good rousing game of Snake.
Yes, let's go play Snake on our Nokia. Well, we just all get an N-Gage.
Oh, I wish I
I'll pass. I'll absolutely pass on that. But anyway, kudos to Square Enix. Good for you guys. I will keep purchasing your games. Thank you very much. And then there's another bit of news, and not necessarily a bit of news, but just something out there that I thought would be interesting for our listeners to hear. And actually, it's funny, too, because this article would have been a little bit more fitting on last week's episode, since Jay and I focused solely on arcades, or actual arcade games. But I happened to come across an article that the largest arcade in the United States.
Yes.
And it's located in Brookfield, Illinois. The name of the arcade is called Galloping Ghost Arcade. It opened in 2010 with 130 games.
Oh wow.
It's now which is impressive to begin with. Like 130 games is nothing to joke about.
Nope.
As of today, it now houses over 640 games.
I feel a road trip happening.
I think so. The retro gamers need to go on the road a little more. I do agree.
I agree.
But not only does it house 640 games, all of these games are set to free play. So they just charge a cover at the door. You pay $20 and you get access to over 640 arcade games at the Galloping Ghost Arcade.
That's not $20 ain't bad at all.
Well, and not only that, they're open every day from 11 a.m. to 2 a.m.
Good Lord.
So if you wanted to go in for the long haul and do a marathon run of gaming for $20, you can basically go in and play for 15 hours straight if you wanted to.
What else is there to do in Illinois at 2 o'clock in the morning?
Apparently, go to the Galloping Ghost Arcade.
I think we can do a weekend trip out of this. Well,
you think so?
I probably could. I think we're gonna have to talk about it. We'll see what happens.
Yeah, no, look, I'm definitely down for it. Next time I happen to be in the middle of the country, which I don't know when that'll be, but it's going to be sometime soon. I'm sure. I mean, I travel all over the place. So, and now, just another bit about the Galloping Ghost is apparently more than 180 records have been made.
Really?
At their arcade. So
that's fitting to mention, considering what we're going to be talking about in a little while.
Yep. There are also weekly, monthly, yearly, and lifetime memberships available.
Lifetime. Oh my gosh. How much is a lifetime membership? Does it say?
No, it does not say.
Oh.
But I would love to know exactly how much those memberships are. Actually, if you hold on one second, I am on their website right now. A 7-day membership is $50. So if you go on vacation for a week, you drop them $50. You can go in for 7 days and do whatever you want.
Because everyone's visiting Brookville. What is it called? Brookville, Illinois?
Brookfield, Illinois.
I was close.
Brookfield, Illinois. For $120, you get a monthly membership.
Oh wow, that's not bad.
Which isn't bad.
No.
For $400, it's a yearly membership.
Okay.
Which isn't bad.
No.
All right, and you think about that. I'm sorry, that's probably less than your gym membership.
Absolutely, I'll tell you that much right now. And I don't even use the gym.
Exactly. And for a lifetime membership, which comes with a custom membership pass.
Oh my God.
And it includes other benefits such as game request priority, early event notice, and more.
Game request priority? I want that 7-year-old off the Donkey Kong machine because I want to play it. Go get his mother. I don't care if he's crying.
Well,
Here's
let me
my
tell you
card.
something. I might buy the lifetime membership just so I can do that.
Honestly,
Just so I want to throw some kid off of an arcade that they're in the middle of playing, just so I can stand in front of it and not play. I just need a place to lean, and I want that machine.
Or you just kick him off.
Let's go. Kick that kid off.
You kick him off. You start the game. You die immediately. I'm done. Let me move on. And we're walking through in Wayne's World when they're backstage with the passes at Alice Cooper, backstage pass. How much is lifetime?
A lifetime membership is $3,000.
Whoa, that's a little higher than I was expecting.
Well, I mean, if you think about it, if you live there and you're a gamer, right, and you know you're going to go all the time, that's actually not that much money. Because think about it, especially if you're younger. I mean, a lifetime membership will, it'll pay for itself within a year or two, I would think.
No, agreed. But I mean, that's just to drop in one shot. I mean, hopefully they have payment plans, but still, that's nuts. Lifetime. That's awesome.
It's absolutely crazy. They also, if you go to their website, which is very interesting too, gallopingghostarcade.com, they also list all of the high scores that have been achieved there.
Out of curiosity, is Ms. Pac-Man on there?
That's a good question. Let me I gotta imagine it would be, right?
Scroll.
Allow me to scroll, please. They look like Michael Jackson's Moonwalker is there.
At least you're in the M's.
Yes. Let's see. Miss Pac-Man has to be here. Ooh, they have Mousetrap. Okay, these are. I don't know if they've updated these recently. But Miss Pac-Man's current record stands at 828,550.
I'm nowhere near that, I will admit. All right.
So
not too shabby.
No, not shabby at all. Yeah, so Galloping Ghost Arcade, if you're anywhere near Brookfield, Illinois, you should definitely check it out. Sound off on our website if you've ever been there, or on our Facebook page if you've ever been there, or if anybody we know happens to have a lifetime membership. All right, Larry, you're driving the bus this week. Why don't you tell everybody what the cheat of the week is?
Driving in the bus. Is this like Desert Bus?
No, I don't think we have 7 hours.
It's just as boring.
Yes.
So, cheat of the week, also more kind of a strategy as well, and we're going to go old school. We're going to go back to the original arcade game of Pac-Man, where you can technically not pause the game, but you can do something in the game that will essentially not get you killed, and you can actually step away from the cabinet.
We're talking arcade. Okay, I just wanted to clarify that.
This is in the arcade. It's called it's a safe spot, and basically, here's what it is. Now, the right side of the T section, now this is beneath the ghost generator, can be used as basically a safe spot where the ghosts are unable to find and catch you as Pac-Man. Now, granted, there are two conditions that you have to do in order for this to actually work. The first is that none of the ghosts can actually see, quote-unquote, you enter this safe spot. So you kind of have to do it when no ghosts are around you. Because if the AI sees it, they're going to come after you.
Okay.
The other condition is that you have to have Pac-Man facing up, facing north. You don't have to enter that way. He has to end.
He has to end facing
north. Correct. Now, if you do this with both conditions being met, you can actually leave Pac-Man right there in that spot, and the ghosts will just constantly circle around and not even come near you until you move the joystick and you continue on. And this is a method, nothing new. The method has been used by players who do these marathon runs, where if they need to take a break, they'll just position themselves and literally walk away, and just the ghosts just circle. I think I've seen it for like an hour or so, and the ghosts don't even touch Pac-Man.
Well, it makes sense if you're trying to break a record or something like that and playing the game for like forever. Every once in a while, you're going to need to take a nap.
Exactly, or a whiz.
Yeah, something.
And that is the safe spot in Pac-Man, and that is this week's Cheat of the Week. All right, so we got some big, shocking news. Probably the biggest news so far in retro news. I mean, this is a big one.
Well, it's a big one if you've been following, the story for years like we have, but for others it may not be big at all because they may not know it.
But I think like for the retro gaming community, I think this is definitely, and this person, let's get right into it. To me, quite frankly, I think he is the greatest villain in cinematic history, and he's finally getting his one-uppings. Billy Mitchell from the acclaimed documentary King of Kong, Fistful of Quarters, avid gamer, known to hold multiple video game records, or at least he used to own multiple video game records, because as of a few, maybe a week ago or so, or maybe a little later than that, Billy Mitchell has been essentially erased from the leaderboards at Twin Galaxies. Twin Galaxies, of course, being the official leader and documentarian and advisors. What's the other word I'm looking for? Authorizers. Video game high scores. And Billy Mitchell is no longer on any of those lists.
That is correct, Larry. And for those of you who don't know who Billy Mitchell is, Billy Mitchell, like Larry said, Billy Mitchell is famous and infamous at the same time for setting a number of major world records in some of the most, classic and most popular video games ever created, including Donkey Kong and Pac-Man.
Yep.
So he was almost, you would almost consider him, I guess, video game royalty in a way, because there are only there are only so many. There's only so many people who, you can hold a record for any video game basically, but Pac-Man and Donkey Kong are two of the like first games to ever really have like that type of solid competition.
True.
And Billy, and Billy Mitchell has had that record for, a really long time. I think it was spanning over a decade at this point.
Probably even longer than that, because he started way back when. If you watch King of Kong, A Fistful of Quarters, it goes into his history. But you're right. Donkey Kong and Pac-Man tend to be the two big ones, especially Donkey Kong because of the documentary. And with Donkey Kong, the race to 1 million, the first to a score of over 1 million. Pac-Man looking for the perfect game. And basically what happens is it turns out that, first of all, when these high scores happen, Twin Galaxies, who's the official, like I said, the official keeper of the scores, they go into a lot of detail, like a lot of scrutiny to make sure that the scores are done correctly. No emulators. They have to be done on an original arcade cabinet, or at least an original board, I should say. And the way it needs to be, either needs to be documented, or an official has to be there to witness it live. So there's a lot that goes on to keep these scores. And it turns out that someone made a point, and Twin Galaxies looked into it, that Billy Mitchell, who a few of his top scores were done by recorded gameplay. Like, it wasn't shown live. It was shown recorded, one of which was in the movie. That it turns out he may have used, or did use, a MAME emulator or a MAME machine, which would automatically disqualify him for the top records.
Correct. And they are saying that it it appears to be that it was a MAME. It was MAME, and for those of you that don't know what MAME is, MAME stands for Multiple Arcade Machine Emulator. It basically allows you to play arcade games through ROMs on your computer. Mm-hmm. And the problem with that is, when video games are recreated as ROMs, they aren't recreated to the perfect scale that the arcade game is. So
maybe glitches, things along those lines.
Right. There may be glitches, or there may be other coding in there that whoever created the ROM could have changed it up. And so when Billy Mitchell chose to use an emulator for it, he wasn't, he was basically breaking the rules, because the rules clearly state that you need to, in order to break a record, you need to use the original arcade cabinet. So, and we're not even talking like a cabinet that you like can build yourself. Like, it has to be an original cabinet with the original PCI board of the game. So if you're playing Donkey Kong, it's got to be from a Donkey Kong machine from 1981, I believe, if that's when it came out.
And even in the movie, that was apparent in the movie, because if you remember in King of Kong, when it was between Billy Mitchell and this guy called Steve Wiebe, who was kind of the everyday guy, trying to get to the first to get to 1,000,000 points. And there was that one scene where, like, the judges from Twin Galaxies like descend on this guy's house to almost break into his garage to verify the Donkey Kong machine that Steve Wiebe was using was legit. And they actually took away what would have been his high score, because it was determined that he got the board from another gamer who was already like banned from Twin Galaxies. Like, it got weird. So it was very specific.
Yeah, no, it was super specific. And when you want, and if you've never seen the documentary, Larry and I both highly recommend it. It's an excellent documentary, detailing two guys who were just trying to become the record holder in these games, and how one guy walks around with this, the aura and mystique of like video game celebrity, and this other guy who just, was, to Larry's point, like, he was your just average guy, who lost his job and then just started playing Donkey Kong.
That's why he did it. He needed something to do, so he was like, all right, let me try and get this high score.
Right. So it's a really interesting journey between the two of them. But now looking back on it, you get to go back and watch this thing and see that, one of the guys basically, had built all of this on a lie. And it's a lie that's now been officially recognized by Twin Galaxies, and as a result, Guinness Book of World Records.
Yeah, I didn't realize, I forgot that Guinness Book of World Records, really, it's Twin Galaxies that gives the information to Guinness. And what happened, we're going to go into a little more detail in a moment, but basically, because of this, Billy Mitchell, who was, the second coming for Twin Galaxies, this man could do no wrong. And because of this now reveal that he was using an emulator or a main machine, they took away all of his score. He's been completely erased from Twin Galaxies with Donkey Kong, DK Jr., his perfect game of Pac-Man. Now, this I don't understand. He was taken off the board for having the perfect game of Pac-Man, which I could have sworn he did live, but be that as it may. And
Well, I was going to say, I think the reason why is because they found him in violation of the rules. I think it just negates every accomplishment he ever made, even if they consider one of them legit.
The old Sandusky route. Fair enough.
Basically,
and I'm talking about the wins and losses, not anything else. And then the other thing is that Billy Mitchell is banned from Twin Galaxies. Like, he cannot submit any new high scores.
Yeah. That's it. He's done. He's basically been banned for life. So, you can say that the career, so to speak, that he built off of this, off of being, this video game guru, is now officially over.
He's been Benoit from Twin Galaxies.
Yes, if you anybody out there who knows professional wrestling will understand that reference. We're not going to get into the details of what that means, but I'm trying to find because in the article it says how many actual records have been rescinded. I think it was something like 11.
Probably he had a ton of them.
Yeah, he had like a lot. Yeah, I mean this guy had a lot of records.
Now I'm shocked it took 11 years. Now the documentary came out in 2007, I think.
Mm-hmm.
So 11 years, right? 7, 17, 18. Yeah, I can't believe it took 11 years for this to come out, because when I was watching that for the first time back in 2007, maybe 2008, there was a point where I went, "Wait a minute, this doesn't seem right." And I don't think this is legit. The scene that we're talking about is basically Steve Wiebe is at I forgot the name of the arcade where a lot of these high scores were done. I think it's somewhere in Michigan or something. And Steve Wiebe goes in, he sits down, and he's working on the first, million point or the next high score. It's already been the million points have already been broken. Now it's just a battle between Wiebe and Mitchell, just whoever gets high score. So Wiebe, I think not only got the high score. Correct me if I'm wrong, Ann. If you remember, I think he was also the first to get a kill screen on Donkey Kong.
Mitchell, yes,
I think so. No, not Mitchell. No, I think Steve Wiebe. Because remember, you had that nerdy sidekick for Twin Galaxies going around telling everyone like, "We got a kill screen coming up. There's a kill screen coming up on Donkey Kong," and Steve Wiebe was there. So I think Wiebe was the first with a kill screen. But he gets the high score. I don't remember the number exactly. So Wiebe gets a high score, and then like 20 minutes after he gets the high score, all of a sudden this videotape emerges, this VHS tape that Mitchell sent in of him playing Donkey Kong. Excuse me, let me rephrase that. Of a video of Donkey Kong being played by Billy Mitchell. So it's not like you see him playing the cabinet. It's just the video screen.
Right.
And I remember like they said to turn the TV on its side so it has the same aspects. And I remember watching it. I'm like, this is messed up. Like, Mitchell just gets to send in a tape and all of a sudden he's going to get the new high score, which they counted. But if you go back and watch, they even mention, I think, at one point the screen skips on that video. And I think Twin Galaxies was trying to play it off like, oh, that's just the VHS tape skipping. But it skipped, the score jumped up, and it was very, very weird. And they never really went back and talked about it. But that always bugged me for all these years, where even when I was first watching, I'm like, this may not be him playing on a machine, or at least maybe splicing in different different levels and different points, because that's what they're saying here. It's not like one straight MAME video. Like, he spliced it in with actual gameplay, like actual cabinet gameplay.
Yeah, no, and I remember that as well, because specifically the jump that happens in the VHS tape.
Yeah,
it was just really, really strange at the time, because it's like, wow, I was like, all right, I was like, that could have been anybody's tape. It could have been anybody playing. It could have been anybody playing it, and the fact that just because he walked in and handed it over. So I found it odd that Twin Galaxies would accept something like that, because they did have criteria that said you could submit a record attained on a videotape if you did not have a like a representative of Twin Galaxies there to witness it. So
correct.
So it's entirely possible, so I get that part of it. But to your point, it's like the tape always seemed kind of hinky, because it was VHS tapes, if you had a bad one and you were recording it, like, how the tracking would be off and it would be really weird, or the screen wouldn't look very well defined. And that's exactly what this tape looked like. It didn't look like it was a great copy.
Yeah.
So and so I can understand the questioning behind it being doctored. But it turns out, that's not exact. It turns out that wasn't even what they wound up proving. They didn't prove that the tape itself was doctored in the sense of it's skipped or anything like it was edited together. They managed to prove that because of the screen ratio that it was an emulator. So it didn't come down to oh, he faked it. He did actually do it, but he did it on an emulator, and it came down to just literally the way the image was on the screen. Somebody managed to figure out that the size was off just enough that it was not the original arcade.
Not only that, also the way the screen is rendered. What I think, I may have this wrong, so I apologize in advance, but I think with the arcade, the screen renders or refreshes top to bottom, because it was a little bit of technical history. back then on those old CRT screens, it was literally the lines were drawn. It was going back and forth, and that image was just a line being drawn. I think it was from top to bottom, where MAME did it from like left to right. I may have that backwards, but it was just the way it was rendered as well.
Yeah, to your point, to your point, the way that Donkey Kong in the arcade goes, it goes from side to side.
Okay.
Like vertical blinds.
Gotcha. Yes.
Like vertical window blinds. If you pictured the way vertical window blinds open, that's how the arcade version of Donkey Kong generates an image. But the version of MAME that he used generated the image the way that they explain it is the way that you would put together a puzzle. So pieces, it would go piece by piece on the screen as opposed to that vertical blind method. Now, what's interesting about that is the fact that, it took them so long to figure that out. Like, it's not, especially like to me, like, Twin Galaxies are the ultimate experts. And the reason why they're banning Mitchell is for the sake of the fact of, they can't risk another issue like this, especially with somebody of this caliber. Who set so many records. Like, they don't, if they're going to be the de facto, judges and record holders for video games, they can't afford to go through this again. Hence why, he's been banned completely.
Thank goodness he can fall back on his hot sauce.
Yes, that he can do. But again, like my point though is about the videotape is the fact that it took them so long to figure it out is a little unnerving. You know what I mean? It's like that should have been something that should have been figured out sooner rather than later.
And what I find very funny, I think the actual downfall of this is the DVD of King of Kong, A Fistful of Quarters. Because, and I'm quoting from, and it is laid out on the Twin Galaxies website. There's a whole section. I'm just going to make some notes here about specific findings from Twin Galaxies, and I'm going to be directly quoting from the website. Not all of it, but first of all, this is a quote. The taped Donkey Kong score performance of 1,047,200, the King of Kong tape, 1,050,200, which is the mortgage broker's score, which I'm not sure what that was, that were historically used by Twin Galaxies to substantiate those scores and place them in the database, were not produced by the direct feed output of an original unmodified Donkey Kong Arcade PCB. That's the motherboard, basically. Mm-hmm. Now, go down a little bit. Those particular scores, which were in the possession of Twin Galaxies, are the performances that were used by previous administrators as justification for those scores to be entered into the database, and for Twin Galaxies to attribute those specific accomplishments to Billy Mitchell. Here's the part with the DVD. Again, direct quote from the website. Of significant note is that it is very straightforward for anyone to check the authenticity of the 1047 performance source tape by just cross-referencing the digital capture video of the performance that has been posted in this dispute thread with the very public King of Kong movie gameplay footage along with its DVD extras. I don't have the DVD anymore, and I don't know if you have the DVD.
I don't, but I want it now.
I'm pretty sure the extra has that entire gameplay.
I'm pretty sure you're right, and now I really want to watch it. But I guarantee you, if you go to YouTube,
well, it's probably up there as well.
It must be on there.
And also, some of this is also not necessarily. You got the one end of them maybe being able to prove that MAME was used. On the flip side, there's enough information where they can't definitively say that it wasn't MAME. So, You know what I mean? It's almost like in football when you need to overturn something, like overturn for a coach's challenge. It has to be significant clarification that, the ball didn't pass the goal line or something along those lines. So that's the other side to it. They can't say that it wasn't a MAME. And that also is being thrown into this mix.
Wow. Yeah, it's just actually really interesting. And you know what? I found a video on YouTube while you were saying what you were saying. Yeah. of somebody actually created a side by side of Billy Mitchell and Steve Wiebe's Donkey Kong play.
Really?
So you can actually look at the video now and see how the screens load up, which is basically what the problem was. Or at least I think you can. But it's worth checking out.
No, absolutely. We'll post that on the page. Here's what I find interesting, but at the same time, it's very Billy Mitchell. Because I remember during the movie, Billy Mitchell never interacted with Steve Wiebe. I think he gave him one handshake. That was about it.
Yeah, they never really talked.
Like, he never showed... Like, Billy... This is something else that made me question Billy Mitchell even back then. When they had the opportunity, like, near the end of the film, they had an opportunity to go one-on-one live at whatever that gaming expo was where that 120-year-old woman had the high score in, like, Qbert or something. They were able to do it, and Billy showed up, but he refused to play. Like, if you're that good, put your money where your mouth is.
Right.
And with this whole investigation that was going on by Twin, I think more investigation went into this than what's going on with Zuckerberg right now. But the Billy Mitchell had every opportunity to address these accusations and to give his side of the story, if you will. But he mum was the word. He kind of just let it go.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. And,
not that he was obligated.
He wasn't obligated. Yeah. But, I think now today we can see the reason why, because he could not replicate that score on an actual arcade cabinet.
Absolutely. And then the final thing that I'll quote here, and I'm going to we'll put a link for the Twin Galaxies, because it's an interesting read. It's a short read, but it's an interesting read, because this is in bold on their website. Quote, "We now believe that they are not," meaning the scores, "from an original unmodified DK arcade PCB, and so our investigation of the tape content ends with that conclusion and assertion," meaning Mitchell, don't let the door hit you on the butt on the way out.
Yeah, and you know what? Rightfully so. I mean, anybody gets caught cheating should pay the consequences. It's a shame, though, because he did build, like I said, he built like a financial career off of this, and it was at, other players' expenses, especially, Steve Wiebe.
Yep. And let's give credit to what credit is due. It was on February 2nd of this year, 2018. Jeremy Young, Twin Galaxies member, he's known by at Xelnia, Xelnia. He's the one that filed the dispute, claiming the assertion of the main gameplay and this validity of Billy Mitchell. This guy was on a witch hunt, and it just worked out in his favor.
Well, you know what? I mean, it's just absolutely possible that he wound up being the first person who noticed it.
Yeah.
You gotta, think about it. You gotta have a really keen eye. And you also have to probably be an expert in the actual game itself to know when something is wrong. It's like watching a movie, it's like watching a movie over and over again until you can recite every line in the film. With the Donkey Kong game, you're not going to – I'll be honest with you. If I sat in front of both Donkey Kong games separately, I wouldn't know the difference. But had I been trying to go for the world record and playing them incessantly, I would bet you anything that eventually – you would catch on that something is a little bit off between the two, and that's what this person did.
Yeah, especially because I remember in the flick, like Steve Wiebe, he was just so specific as far as like mapping out the way the barrels go, mapping out how just everything went.
Yeah, no, he basically, they were using, it was pattern recognition and mathematics basically that they were using to figure it all out. And, it's the pattern recognition that this guy did that wound up catching Billy Mitchell, in a lie.
Absolutely. And you know what? We're going to put the YouTube video Ant was talking about earlier where Billy Mitchell.
Well, I was gonna say, unfortunately, after watching a bit of it, it doesn't show the boards loading up. So,
okay.
and that's the part that you need to see. Although I do have. Oh no, never mind. I found another video. The case. By the way, if you do a search for Billy Mitchell on YouTube, like all of the top videos now are all about him getting stripped of the title. Like everybody basically ran to YouTube to upload videos about it. But apparently there's a 30-minute video called "The Case Against Billy Mitchell's Donkey Kong: A Look at the Facts and Claims." So they were already posting that kind of stuff up there.
Yeah, we'll we'll put all that stuff up. We'll check it out. But definitely pay attention. What your thoughts, everyone's thoughts about this? This, and he was seen as like the king of video games in at least these arcades because he held so many records. Even if they weren't current records, he still did a lot in various games. And this downfall of this giant, as you mentioned earlier. Let us hear your thoughts about it. Post it on the Facebook.com/RetroGamersPodcast. Let us know what you think. I always thought that he deserved it because I never liked him. I thought he was worse than Darth Vader and any other villain in cinematic history. Poor Steve Wiebe. All right, so we're going to now update with a retro record. After our conversation that we just had, we can, as per Twin Galaxies, announce that now the first person to ever score 1,000,000 points in Donkey Kong officially is now Mr. Steve Wiebe.
Hey, and well deserved. I mean, he's only had to wait for how many years now?
A long time. 11 years or so?
Yeah, about 11 years since since the cheater stole that title from him.
So, but it all all good things come to those who wait. And congratulations, Steve Wiebe. You're now officially the first gamer ever to score over 1,000,000 points in Donkey Kong. And that is this week's retro record.
All right, Larry, I know we're about to wrap things up here, but you forgot to mention one little thing about the whole Billy Mitchell story, and that's the Guinness Book of World Records is in the process of updating their official records. They have not erased Billy Mitchell, but he will be gone soon.
Gone from existence. Deleted from existence.
Yes, he will be deleted.
And, because Twin Galaxies pretty much tells Guinness Book of World Records what to do.
In terms of video games, they do.
That's crazy, but that's the world we live in now. So,
yes, it is.
Congratulations, Steve Wiebe. And if anyone has Billy Mitchell's hot sauce, dump it down the drain.
Or if you find him, dump it down his throat.
Well, maybe good. Who knows?
Yeah, you never know.
And we're going to start bringing this one in here to an end because, truth be told, it is very late right now, and I am very tired. Yes,
and it is very late for me, too. 3 hours earlier than Larry, but still late enough for me because I wake up super early. Larry, our next episode, I will be in Japan.
Yes, that's right. Okay. So we're going to have to you got to somehow, at least not record with me, but if you can sneak a camera into Super Potato, do a little investigative reporting.
I would love to do that. My only problem is I don't know if the strange man who's speaking a language they don't understand while recording might alarm them.
It'd be great if you tried interviewing them.
Yes. Well, hey, I'm game to try anything, but I really don't want to spend any time in a Japanese jail. So I'll try. I'm just going to have to avoid that.
Fair enough. All right, so be on the lookout, Anthony, over there in Japan. And I guess I'll have to get my list going. When do you leave?
I leave on Saturday.
Oh, okay. I got some time.
Yes, you definitely have some time. I will make sure that on this trip you spend more money than I do, of course.
Probably always the case.
Always will be. They still have that. They still have that $450 game that you want, if you want.
Oh, Summer Carnival.
Yes.
Yeah.
Whichever one it was.
Yeah, I have it on 3DS. It's okay.
Well, there you go.
So, Ant, where can they find us? Anywhere they are in the world.
Well, they can find us on www.theretrogamers.com, which is our official website. They can find us on Instagram at @the_retro gamers. You can find us on our Facebook page, which is facebook.com/retrogamerspodcast. Our podcast is available on iTunes, on Spreaker, on Amazon Alexa, on TuneIn, on iHeartRadio, and I'm sure plenty of other places I'm not thinking of. Basically, if it's a streamable, if it's a streaming site, you can probably find us there.
Take 5 seconds. Yeah, just type in the Retro Gamers. If we come up, good to go. If we don't, use another app.
Exactly. That app isn't worth listening to then.
Unless the better half of the yin and yang is on it, then you can keep it.
No, you don't have to keep it.
And at this point, I'd like to announce as well, granted, it's going to be a year in the making, but we will next year, April 7th, 2019, I do want to announce that it's going to be an epic, more of the same podcast extravaganza at the parking lot of MetLife, as I think a bunch of us will be descending there for WrestleMania 35, but we're going to do an epic tailgate party. And
yes, before you get too far along, I'd like to specify that it is at the MetLife Stadium in New Jersey. We will not be hanging out at the MetLife building.
What, didn't I say stadium?
No, you did not.
Well, we can go to the MetLife building, too. Listen, they stopped using Snoopy, so we need to...
it's two totally different things. We will be at the MetLife Stadium.
The small parking lot on 34th Street and 5th Avenue. No. So, yeah, MetLife Stadium, and we're going to do an epic tailgate party for WrestleMania, but, yes, we will be broadcasting, we will be streaming, we will be podcasting, we're doing everything. That's the little tiny seed to be planted. More to talk about that. We have our big epic Los Angeles crossover that we're going to be doing in November, where the Retro Gamers finally hits the West Coast full time.
Well, the Retro Gamers have always been on the West Coast. It's just that one half of us will be finally catching up.
That's what I meant. Where we're going to be there 100%, and we got some. Who knows what else is going to be happening during the year? So tune in, be on the lookout. Stick with the Retro Gamers, and we want to thank everyone who listens, everyone who follows us on the pages, and everyone who shares the streams. We're going to be doing some more streams as we go along. We know we've been backing off a little bit of that, but hey, life gets in the way sometimes. It's okay.
Yeah, but Larry, do you know what never gets in the way?
What?
The Virtual Boy. Because it sucks. And nobody has one.
I knew I should have closed this a lot sooner. And with that,
VB sucks, y'all.
We'll catch you next week right here on the Retro Gamers.